For me, one of the easiest ways for me to share my faith is to tell stories, true life stories, and I've had opportunities to have experiences and for other people to share their stories with me. So one of my favorite stories I'll share with you today was an opportunity I had a couple years ago to attend Mennonite Church USA in Phoenix, Arizona. And going there was my first time there, and I prayed before going, God, lead me to those people that you have for me to meet this week. And Willard Metzger is not here this morning, so I can share this story. I get on the airplane, and there's Willard Metzger, sitting in the first class section. And I kind of went, whoa, and I said good morning and headed back to my seat in the back. And it was interesting as we got off the plane. Willard, of course, had to come tell me why he was sitting in first class. And it wasn't on Mennonite Church Canada dollar. It was his own personal points that he had cashed in. But it gave me the opportunity to chat with Willard as we walked to the airport to get our luggage. And I had an opportunity to share some of my stories with him that day. And we met later that week, and it was so neat. Those meetings that I prayed for happened. As Willard and I met, and I again got to share some of my stories, he picked up on the theme that, man, it's so cool when you see God at work through his people and what happens when you're obedient. And so the next morning I woke up. It was Phoenix time, so it was early in the morning, and opened my Bible, and it was Romans 8. And the heading on it was Life Through the Spirit. And as I read that, it resonated with me. And as I finished, I was praying that, God, I want to be Spirit-led. Lead me today. And as I finished that prayer, I was standing at the window on the 18th floor of my hotel room in downtown Phoenix. And I looked out, and there was a gentleman standing. I saw him come to the corner, and he caught my eye. And the thought came to me, you need to go talk to him. And I thought, okay, that's crazy. This is me now wanting God to talk to me. So I'm making things up. So I blew it off, and I walked away. And as I headed back, the thought came a second time. No, you need to go talk to him. So I walked back to the window, and I looked down, thinking, well, he'll be gone. The light would have changed by now, and he'll be gone. And I looked out, and he was still standing there. And again, I thought, that's still crazy. So I blew it off, but I came a third time. And I rationed that, well, by the time I get dressed, get down from 18 floors, around the corner to the next block, he's going to be gone, but I will be obedient. Got dressed, headed down, and as I turned the corner, he was still standing there. I went, crap, now what? And then I thought, well, I can walk right up to him, and he'll never know I was coming to talk to him. But as I got close, I noticed he had a small Bible in his hand. And to me, it hit home. This is real. God is a part of this. I knew I had to stop, so I didn't even know what to say, though. I walked up to him and I said, I believe you have a word for me. And for a guy standing in the corner with a Bible, I threw him. He didn't know what to say. And he stepped back, he opened his Bible, and he started reading from Psalms 23, which is my favorite scripture. And this peace just came over me. I was standing there, and I was so out of my element, I was shaking. I noticed I was shaking. But he was so busy reading, I don't think he noticed. But this peace came over me, and God said, just listen. And I did. It was incredible. He shared his faith story with me. He was homeless living in Los Angeles. And he said he was a light sleeper. He never slept well at night. And he found himself a dumpster where he could crawl in, close the lid, and it was quite enough for him to sleep. And he said he always woke up before the truck came until one morning. And he said he woke up as he was being dumped into the big bin. They dumped him in the back. And he said he righted himself, and he was yelling. And the driver was obviously still in the truck. And then he heard the noise of the compactor starting. And it crushed him. He said, I was bleeding out my hands, out my neck. And he was actually wearing the tunic that day when I met him. The tunic that he was wearing that day that he was in the dumpster. And he showed me the blood spots on his sleeves and on his collar. And he said, but then it ended. And the truck started driving, and sure enough, it stops again. And it opens up, and the next one comes in. And he's yelling, and nothing. And then he heard the click of the switch again. And he said, I didn't know God, but my only instinct was to cry out to God for help. He cried out that God would save him, and God did. The driver heard him as it was crushing him and stopped it, managed to pull him out, and said to him, I don't know why you're alive. I know what I put in the truck and what happens to it. There's no way you should be alive after once, let alone twice. And he said, that day, I just knew God was real, and I embraced it. I knew he had a plan for my life. we chatted. I got to share my faith with him. He shared his faith. Right there in the corner, we prayed for each other. It was such a neat moment. And talk about time standing still. When I look back, I think it was upwards of 2 hours, but it seemed like 5 minutes that we stood there. And finally he said, I got to go. And he gave me a big hug, and he explained to me where he works. And said, if you got a chance yet this week, drop by. And the week went on. I had cousins down there. I spent the weekend with them. And as I was heading back to the airport, I thought, I got some questions for him. I want to go see if I could find him. So I went to his work. He wasn't there. They said he should be in shortly. So I went back, and he was there. And I said, Akeen, his name was Akeen. I said, Akeen, I have a question for you. It's been bothering me all weekend. What were you doing standing in the corner that day? And he said, Tim, that's easy. I woke up that morning, and God told me to go stand in the corner. I've never been there before. And I said, wow, why weren't you ready for me then? And he said, Tim, I thought someone was coming to help me. And when you asked for help, I didn't know what to do. He had been on the streets for so long. It was his opportunity to give. And that mutual respect for each other is what has built our friendship. He's a neat guy. It's been so cool. We haven't been together. He told me, Tim, I just got a job, and the first paycheck I'm going to go get a cell phone, and I know who my first phone call is going to be. And about 3 weeks later, he called me, and we've continued to stay in touch ever since. And it's amazing. We often text now. He's gone back to Africa, so it's a little tougher to connect with him. But he often sends texts, and it's been amazing when I know something's going to happen. God is at work. I get a text. He sent me one this morning. So the point I'd like to make is when we get to share from our own experiences, believing beyond a shadow of a doubt that God is real and that he is at work today and he is with us during these conversations. I love from this morning that God's a part of these conversations. It's not just us. He goes before us. He prepares the way. He's a part of it. But when you see that he is at work and you get to be a part of that, how can someone refute your personal testimony? I encourage you to ask God to lead you, and then don't be afraid to act. Those small nudges, go for it. To me, it's amazing how often opportunities come up when you pray that way. I often wonder if God is providing opportunities because you prayed, or is it because you're aware of opportunities that you would have otherwise missed? I've concluded it's both.